Sasser house. My name is Chris and I'm bringing you guys this video to show you another furniture flip. So I just picked up this dresser right here for only $20 on Facebook Marketplace. It is really gross. It smells horrible. I'm actually afraid to be this close to it. It's got some broken glass in these doors, which I'm going to do something later in this video that I've never done before on a furniture flip. So you're gonna wanna make sure to keep watching, but let's go ahead and get started. Let's get this thing cleaned up and let's flip this piece of furniture. So just like any furniture flip that I do, the first step is to remove the hardware and pull the drawers out. And I do this while I'm in the cleaning process. That way I can clean the outside of the piece of furniture. And then I go ahead and wipe down the inside of those drawers. And then of course behind the drawers. And you never know what you're going to find behind some of these drawers. I've found all kinds of clothing items, trash, even some valuables. So make sure that you clean out your piece really, really well, especially if it's not yours. You may find a treasure back there. But this piece, like I said, was especially disgusting, and so I took extra time to clean this thing up before I got into the priming and painting part of this furniture flip. Now for the broken glass, I actually removed the broken glass side, and then I decided to go ahead and remove the glass on the other side as well, because I did have a plan for this. I don't know why I didn't get the full video, because I actually had to end up breaking the glass and shattering it, and that was pretty cool, but I didn't record it. After I got rid of that glass and got it all cleaned up, I went ahead and scuff sanded everything with 400 grit sandpaper and my sanding block just to get it roughed up enough for the primer to stick. Now for the priming step of this process, I'm just going to use this little mini roller, which is a 3-inch foam roller, and this rolling tray for my primer. And then the primer that I'm going to use on this project is Zinsser's 123 Bullseye Primer. This is a water-based primer. It's not the greatest primer, I will say. It absolutely works. I usually use oil-based primer, the Stain Blocker by Zinsser's, because it does block stains and is ultimately just a better primer. But this will absolutely work as well. So to apply the primer, I just use that miniature roller and I kind of squish it in all of the cracks and details first, and then I roll over all of the smooth surfaces. I'm going to just say this now. I know that this is probably not a popular opinion, but I've been doing furniture flipping for probably 7 or 8 years now, part-time, and I like using one of these miniature rollers better than I do a paint sprayer. I think that it takes so much time to set up a paint sprayer, then to spray it, and then the cleanup takes so long, and I actually end up never getting a really, really good finish with my paint sprayers, and maybe I just don't know what I'm doing, but I've tried several different ones, I've watched tons of videos on it, and I get a better, smoother result from just using these foam rollers, and it honestly is so much faster. I can paint this entire dresser with a primer in about 10 minutes. So, and the cleanup is super, super easy. You just keep squishing and wring out that foam roller until it starts coming out clear in the water. So super easy to clean up, and I highly recommend using these foam rollers because you're still going to get a really smooth professional finish with this, and I think that it's just so much easier. It really helps if you will sand in between coats and do 2 coats of this primer. This is going to help block the stains and, of course, cover everything a lot better before the next coat. So do your first coat, let it dry for about 45 minutes to an hour, and then lightly sand with that 400 grit sandpaper and your sanding block just to get rid of any runs or any spots that you may have just got the paint a little too thick. And that will make it really, really smooth. Do your second coat, and then you can even sand with that 400 grit sandpaper in between the final priming coat and your actual paint. So highly recommend sanding in between coats for that smooth, smooth finish. Okay, after I got it all primed, the next step is paint. And this paint is actually a paint I got from the clearance section at Home Depot. And I love the clearance section because you can find a gallon of paint for only $8 or $9, which is the best deal out there. You know, so many people are like, you have to use chalk paint or milk paint or, you know, all of the different trends of different kinds of paint, or, you know, the paint brands now, even at Lowe's and Home Depot, are making furniture or cabinet paint. And that stuff is great. I've used all kinds of different paint, but I've been using just regular house or wall paint, interior paint for years. And I get it all from the clearance section because it's super cheap. I watch that section to find colors that I think will be good on pieces. And if you prime the piece correctly and then paint 2 coats with this interior paint and seal it correctly, which we will talk about next, you will have no problems. The paint's not going to chip. You're going to have no problems at all. So highly recommend, check out those clearance sections and make sure you get paint on a good deal, because 1 gallon of paint can do probably 4 pieces of furniture. So there's no sense in going out there and spending $30 or $40 for a little thing of chalk paint that you're only going to be able to use on one project, because you absolutely don't have to have that. I've got tons of painted and refinished furniture in our home that Emily and I have used for probably 3 or 4 years now, as long as we've been married at least, and very little chipping or anything. This stuff holds up great, so you don't need that fancy paint. Just do it as cheap as possible and pick a color that you like if you can find it in that clearance section. So I went with this green color, and I think that this has turned out to be a great color. I've used it on multiple projects already. This is the 3rd piece I've actually done. All right, and now on to those cabinet doors that used to have the broken glass. So like I said earlier in the video, I wanted to try something new. So I got some of that cane webbing that you see all over Pinterest and Instagram and TikTok that people use to put in something like this, in a cabinet door, and it makes it very boho. So I wanted to try that, so I got some from Amazon. I used this spray adhesive glue and sprayed it on the back and applied the cane webbing, and it just wouldn't lay flat. It was a disaster, horrible to work with. I still have a whole roll of it, so let me know in the comments down below what I did wrong and why this was not working for me, and what you guys recommend to do to how to use this cane webbing. So I had to rethink what I was going to do here, and I ended up just getting some of this thin plywood, which is like what they normally use for the backer of a dresser or piece of furniture. I cut this out to size for each door, and then ended up just using liquid nails and gluing these pieces of plywood just to make that a solid door. And so I glued those up on both sides and then ended up clamping those and letting those sit overnight. I wish that I could have done the cane webbing, because I think that would have looked really, really cool, but I just couldn't get it to work out. And sometimes that's what happens when you're trying to do something new, and you just try to learn from it, and you got to go with whatever you can make work. So painted those up and got those all matching the rest of the dresser with the green. And then after that, next and final step of this is polyacrylic. So this is my clear coat or my sealing coat, and this is very important. Going back to what I was saying earlier, you know, if you're doing the process correct of flipping furniture, and you start with 2 coats of primer, and then you go with your paint, at least 1 or 2 coats of paint, and then you seal it off with polyacrylic, several coats, you are going to have a smooth and professional finish, and you're also not going to have paint that's going to chip off, and it's going to be very durable. And so Emily and I have had furniture in our home for years, and we've never had a problem with paint chipping or just normal wear and stuff like that. So you don't have to go buy that expensive paint, like I said earlier, as long as you do all of these steps. So I went ahead and clear coated everything and sanding in between with that 400 grit sandpaper. Then I went ahead and picked up some new hardware that was boho looking. And if you get this at Hobby Lobby, it says $4.99, but you can always get them 50% off if you just wait for the right time. So I added all of that new hardware onto the dresser. I got some really cool looking knobs for the drawers, and then those little pull or hanging knobs for the doors. After getting all of the drawers back in the dresser and the new hardware on, the final and last step is to stage the piece up so I can get it listed onto Facebook Marketplace, since I am going to sell this piece. So I always lay out these little rugs in front of my staging wall, which is just beadboard shot to the side of my shed. I moved the piece in front of that staging wall and then just borrow some home decor from throughout our house and just stage it until it looks pretty good and symmetrical. Let me remind you guys, here's a clip of what this piece looked like when we first got started. It was disgusting. They had that broken glass, and then even the other side, you couldn't even see through it. It was horrible, and let's see what we turned it into. I think that this was still absolutely a success. I think it turned out beautiful. I love the green color. I love that new hardware. And we couldn't make that cane webbing work, but I think that the plywood making the doors solid still looks great. Here again is what it looked like before. This was a $20 dresser we got off of Facebook Marketplace. We invested a little bit of time and just a little bit of money, and it turned into this. I love the way that it turned out. I ended up selling this piece for $450 so quick, and I've had hundreds of messages about this piece, people wanting it or something like this. So it was absolutely still a success. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Do you think that it still looks okay, even though we didn't make that cane webbing work out? And if you guys think we should have done something different, or you know how to do that cane webbing stuff and what I did wrong, please leave that down in the comments below. I'd love to know and have your advice. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to like and subscribe to our channel, and we will see you guys on the next one.